Maya Rodriguez had perfected the art of invisibility. While her classmates at the Intergalactic Military Academy preened and postured, she sat in the back corner of Combat Theory 101, sketching absent patterns in her notebook. Her fellow cadets, towering Vordak warriors, chittering Zephyrian blade dancers, and crystalline selenites, barely acknowledged her presence. She preferred it that way. Professor Krixtal, a veteran draconian whose scales bore the scars of a dozen campaigns, paced before the amphitheater with predatory grace. Today, his voice rumbled through the translation matrix, we discuss psychological warfare, the art of defeating an enemy before the first blow is struck. Cadet Vorash, a hulking Vordak champion whose species had conquered half their sector through pure physical dominance, snorted dismissively. His kind believed in one philosophy: the strongest survived, the weak perished. Subtlety was for lesser beings. Combat is about strength and speed, Vorash declared, his tusks gleaming as he spoke. Crush the enemy quickly. Everything else is weakness. Several cadets nodded in agreement. The galaxy had seen the Vordak war machine in action, brutal, efficient, unstoppable. Their homeworld produced warriors who could bench press small vehicles and had reflexes measured in microseconds. Professor Krixtal's eyes glittered with amusement. An interesting perspective, Cadet Vorash. Perhaps you'd like to demonstrate your philosophy? The massive alien stood eagerly, his muscles rippling beneath his ceremonial combat harness. Gladly, Professor. Who shall I educate first? Maya continued sketching, but her pencil movements became more deliberate. She was drawing something now, geometric patterns that seemed to shift and flow across the page. Her classmates might have found it mesmerizing if they had bothered to look. Actually, Professor Krixtal said, his voice carrying a strange undertone, I believe we need a volunteer from a species less familiar with direct confrontation. His gaze swept the room before settling on the quiet human in the corner. Cadet Rodriguez, please join us. The amphitheater fell silent. Even the atmospheric processors seemed to hum more quietly. Maya looked up from her notebook, meeting the professor's ancient eyes with her own steady brown ones. I'd rather not, she said simply. Vorash's laughter boomed through the chamber. The little pink skin is afraid. How did such a weak species even reach the stars? Maya sighed and closed her notebook. She had hoped to avoid this, but some lessons could only be learned one way. Standing slowly, she walked to the center of the room with the unhurried pace of someone strolling through a garden. Combat parameters? She asked Professor Krixtal. Standard Academy rules. No lethal force. Victory by submission or incapacitation. The professor's translator couldn't quite capture the anticipation in his voice. Vorash cracked his knuckles, each pop like a small explosion. He outweighed Maya by at least 300 pounds and stood nearly 3 feet taller. His species had evolved on a high-gravity world where everything was either predator or prey, and the Vordak had firmly established which category they belonged to. Maya stood perfectly still in the center of the combat circle, hands loose at her sides, breathing steady and deep. She looked almost bored. The match began. Vorash charged with the fury of an avalanche, his roar shaking the walls. Maya didn't move. She didn't dodge, didn't raise her guard, didn't even shift her weight. She simply watched him approach with the same mild interest she might show a passing cloud. At the last possible second, as Vorash's massive fist whistled toward her face, Maya smiled. The Vordak warrior suddenly stumbled, his charge faltering. Confusion clouded his features as his legs betrayed him. He crashed to the floor with enough force to crack the reinforced combat surface, completely unconscious before he hit the ground. Maya hadn't moved a muscle. The amphitheater erupted in shocked chatter as medical drones rushed to tend to the fallen warrior. Professor Crixtel stared at Maya with newfound respect. How? He whispered. Maya picked up her notebook and returned to her seat. Humans are persistent hunters, Professor. We evolved to track prey across vast distances by reading microexpressions, body language, and biological tells. Vorash telegraphed his entire attack sequence before he even stood up. She opened her notebook, revealing not random doodles, but detailed anatomical charts, Vortex pressure points, neural clusters, and cardiovascular mapping. I knew exactly where his species' vagus nerve cluster was located. A precisely timed subsonic frequency, generated by controlled breathing and focused through resonant humming, was enough to trigger a neurological cascade. He defeated himself. The professor's translator struggled with the concepts she described. Maya had weaponized knowledge itself, turning her opponent's biology against him without laying a finger on him. As medical teams revived the bewildered Vortex champion, one truth echoed through the academy: never underestimate the quiet ones from the death world called Earth.